So as we've continued to see results come in from the 2024 election, there's something interesting is happening that I think is worth bringing attention to. And this thing that's really amazed me is that split ticket voting seems to be making a resurgence at some level. For those of you that don't know, split ticket voting refers to when voters will essentially pick two different parties for different levels of government. For example, you might vote Republican for the presidency, but then you might vote a Democrat for the Senate and the House, or you might vote Republican for the House and the presidency, and then just Democrat for the Senate. But you get the idea. And what I want to focus on particularly is Senate races. And I think that's an important point of comparison because the whole state is voting on one thing. They're just voting on who their senator is, and they're doing it at the same time that state is also, as a whole, voting for who they want their electoral votes to go to. Now, it was not uncommon back in 2012 and before for states to vote one party for president and a different party for the Senate. It wasn't super common, but it did happen. In 2012, there were 8 instances where the voters of a state picked one party for president and then a different party for who they wanted to send to the Senate. So it is within recent memory, 12 years ago or so. But in 2016, things sort of changed. Split ticket voting like that in the Senate kind of died out. Every state that Trump won, where there was a Senate election in 2016, the Republican candidate for Senate won, and vice versa with Clinton. Every state that she won, where there was a Senate election, the Democrat won. In 2020, there was only one instance, and that was in Maine, which does kind of make sense. Susan Collins up there running a very moderate Republican campaign, so she was the only instance of a Republican winning a state that Biden won in the presidential election. In 2024, of the 7 swing states, 5 of them also had Senate elections in this cycle. North Carolina and Georgia didn't, but Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, and Arizona did have Senate races. And of those 5, which Trump swept in the presidential race, 4 of them went to the Democrats in their Senate elections. But first, really quickly, that does not mean that there was fraud. I've seen some of the worst takeaways from this is that, Harris must have won those states, but Trump did something weird because look, the Democrats are winning at other levels. No, that is complete nonsense. This is not me accusing these states of doing something fraudulent. This is just me trying to unpack this is the reality and trying to understand why these states broke away from the Republicans at a different level of government where they did quite confidently go for Trump at the presidential level. So with that out of the way, what explains why Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, and Arizona, all states that voted for Trump, voted for Democrats at the Senate level? Well, the first possibility is that Trump's voters only vote for Trump. In a couple of these instances, in 2 of these states, the Republican candidate got 100,000 votes less than Trump himself did. I think it's possible, just looking at this, that Trump's cult of personality that he has, the way that he motivates people, does not motivate people to aspire to be loyal to the Republican Party, but rather to him specifically. Now, it is entirely normal for voters to participate more in a presidential election than in a Senate race. That is pretty much always the case when these elections happen at the same time. More people will come out and vote for the presidency and then not engage next time. But this is seemingly a pattern across 4 swing states where Trump supporters have shown up, voted for Trump, and then just left in the tens of thousands. So that's one way to rationalize it. The motivation that Trump puts into his supporters, the activism that comes out of them, and the political engagement extends purely to him and does not extend to other Republicans. That's one explanation. Another one is these Democrats did what Harris couldn't, and in the eyes of American voters, effectively separated themselves from the unpopularity of the Biden administration. In Arizona, for example, the Democratic candidate was working really hard there to try and emphasize how much he did care about the issue of border crossings and how he was trying to apply more pressure in the government to try and get Biden to care more about the issue. And then in Nevada, I believe there was a massive focus on issues of infrastructure and trying to focus things on her own record and really not mentioning Biden in any capacity. And then I also want to mention some other things that it probably wasn't. First of all, I don't think that this was necessarily about candidate quality. I know a lot of people are going to talk about how, like, in Nevada and Arizona specifically, people like Carrie Lake, election deniers were outright running. These, like, borderline conspiracy theorists were the Republican candidates. And you can try and point out, like, oh, it's just a matter of, like, candidate quality and stuff. If that was the case, Donald Trump would not have won the state. If believing in election denial and conspiracy theories was disqualifying in these elections, then they would have gone for Harris. So I do not believe that candidate quality necessarily is what determined these split ticket outcomes. And then as a final point, I don't think it was about sexism. I know a lot of people are going to think, look, these Democrats were running there and they won, but Harris didn't. Is it an issue of sexism? 3 of these Democrats that won in these states were women. So I don't think that was an issue either. What I think the Democrats need to try and understand looking at these 4 Senate races is this is a message that works in this part of the country. Whatever they are selling to their voters comes off better because these candidates, in terms of like percentages of the vote and who they're getting out to vote, are outperforming Harris. They have beat her and they are selling something to their voters that is a form of the Democratic Party that they are more than willing to support. And the Democratic Party needs to look at where it has won and understand that is what we should do going forward if they want to take the White House back in 2028. Okay, that's that. Before I go, I made a joke on one of my previous videos that once the election was over, I would make a video on the state of the Pokemon trading card game in 2024. I'm not going to do that now because, well, I probably have like 11 more videos to make in the aftermath of the election, but I might look at maybe doing a non-political niche topic video that anyone is interested, like maybe once a month or something, just to give my brain a rest from the state of American politics at any given time. And who knows, maybe in like a month or so, I'll break down why Lapras EX changes the whole game. But until we get to that point, things are staying political, but I might try out some new stuff. So thank you guys for listening, and I can't wait to see you for the next one.